Hello everyone, welcome to Digital Marketing Gyan, the podcast where we keep on sharing some of the informative tools, techniques, case studies and latest updates in digital marketing domain. I am your host Prince Kumar and we have Mullins with us. He is the founder and CEO of Ugly Mug Marketing. Over the past 20 years, he has scaled multiple companies and helped hundreds of entrepreneurs do the same with their companies. Ugly Marketing has won the praises of some of the leading influencers in the business world, such as Chris Voss, Neil Patel, and Ari Winsing. Today, we will be sharing valuable insights on social media marketing. Hi Vane, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am excited about our conversation and looking forward to talking about marketing with you today.
Definitely, and Evan, I'm excited to have a kind of insightful discussion. So before starting this complete discussion, I'm curious to know about the story behind your company name. It's very unique, Ugly Mug Marketing. So can you just give us a bit story about like why you selected this name?
Sure, absolutely. So the name Ugly Mug Marketing is actually a play off of a quote from this gentleman of the name David Ogilvy. So David Ogilvy at one point was the co-founder of the world's largest ad agency. Ogilvy and Mather for many years was the world's largest ad agency. And rumor has it that David had this quote that he was famous for. And that quote was, "I would rather an ad that's ugly but effective than one that's beautiful that isn't." And so the name Ugly Mug Marketing really just plays off of that idea or that notion that we shouldn't be so concerned about designing or creating something that is beautiful for the sake of design. Instead, we should always be focused on the thing that matters most, which is results.
So what all social platforms you generally work for your clients?
Yeah, in regards to the social platforms, we are what I would say we are platform agnostic, meaning we don't necessarily love a particular platform. Instead, what we do when we approach a client and when we start working with them is we begin by getting a thorough understanding of their market. So, one of the places that we love to start with our clients is this. We believe in this concept called the marketing triangle. And so if you just think of a triangle on a sheet of paper, at the top of this triangle would be the market. And so the market is the who. In other words, who are our clients trying to reach? And so we will spend time really diving deep into their particular market. We want to understand what are the likes, what are the interests, what are the things that they're afraid of, what are the things that keep their customers, their clients up at night, what are their desires, where do they live, where do they work, what's their family dynamic. So we really do a deep dive into the market itself, because you see, once we understand the market, if you think back to that triangle, if you move down from the top where the market is down to the next point down on the bottom right, that is then where we begin crafting the message, right? So once we thoroughly understand who it is we're communicating with on behalf of that client, we can then craft the message that speaks to them, that resonates with them, that will drive them to take the action that we want them to take. And then the final point on the triangle, so the top point on the triangle was market. The bottom right point on the triangle would be the message. And then the final one is the media or the platform that we're going to select. You see, oftentimes I think we make mistakes when we begin with the platform itself, right? So if we look around and we see all of our competitors are running to jump on TikTok, or all of our competitors are running to jump on, X, Y, or Z, whatever the latest, the greatest new platform is, we set ourselves up for failure. Instead, we must ask, who is our market? What message are we trying to communicate? And then we can determine which platform is the best place to put our message so that it communicates directly with our market.
Very perfectly said. Very perfectly said. So I think so everyone should work upon to understand their audience first. And once they have clarity of their audience, then definitely that will be somewhere transforming, or that will give you a better clarity on the platform where your audience is.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is this, to kind of reiterate what you were saying there is this, that when you partake in what we would call Me Too marketing, you're gonna fail. So when I say Me Too marketing, what I mean is this: when you look around and you feel this pressure because all your competitors are jumping on the latest platform, or all your competitors are redesigning their website, or all your competitors are advertising in this one particular way or this one particular place, what you're doing is you're participating in Me Too marketing. In other words, I look around, I see what they're doing, and I think, oh, well, I should be doing that as well. So I jump on that bandwagon. And what happens when we participate in Me Too marketing is we end up with frustration, we end up with lack of results. And the funny thing is this: it's our own fault, right? We chose to advocate, to get rid of the responsibility to think strategically in favor of just copying, taking the easy path and attempting to do what we see other people doing. And the reality is, most of them, the vast majority of your competitors, aren't being strategic about their marketing. Instead, they're doing the same exact thing. They're looking around their competitors and they're just copying. They're following where their competitors are going as well.
Very rightly said. So coming to the platform, like we have kind of n number of platforms, but the previous one, which I say that Facebook was one of the key social platform which most of the digital marketers were using, and now we have TikTok. So, do you think platforms like TikTok are going to lead the social media race, and Facebook is somewhere losing its popularity?
Yeah, I think that what is going to remain true is that platforms and which platform dominates is going to continually change. So if all of your marketing strategy is tied to one platform, you are setting yourself up for failure. And so think back through kind of the evolution or the history of social media marketing. So the first big player on the scene was MySpace. Well, MySpace doesn't really exist today. I mean, it's still there, but not too many people that I know are using MySpace. Facebook comes along, Facebook dominates for a while, and then this other company starts getting very popular, Instagram. Now, Facebook obviously acquires Instagram, so it's kind of under their umbrella still, but it's a completely different platform. The way that it functions is different. The type of media or the type of content that you're putting there is different. And then, now we have TikTok, and then, so this is constant evolution, this constant progression of the latest and the greatest platform. So I can't specifically speak to which platform is better. What I can speak to is this, that when you understand your market, that will determine which platform you need to give attention to. So if you are trying to, for example, target women in the US between the ages of 45 and 65, the platform for you at this point is still Facebook. Right now, if you're targeting women between the ages of 18 and 35, that platform may very well be Instagram. So again, it goes back to the simple notion of we have to spend time really understanding our audience and our market before we can make a decision on a platform.
Got it. So we have understood a bit about understanding the platform. Now, what are the general KPIs your team use to measure effectiveness of clients' social media activities?
So for us, the only metric that matters for the vast majority of our clients is this thing called money in the bank account, right? So they come to us for one reason and one reason only. They don't care how many likes we get them. They don't care how many shares we get them. They don't care, how many impressions, the frequency, the reach, all of these things that most people talk about and believe are so important, we say those things are nothing more than vanity metrics, right? They make you feel good. So if you've got 10,000 followers or if you've got 100,000 followers, right, it's like a badge of honor. Like the more followers, the more likes, the more shares, all of those things are vanity metrics. At the end of the day, the thing that matters most is, are your campaigns, are your posts putting money, if you're in a for-profit business, are they putting money in your bank account? And specifically, are they putting more money in your bank account than it's costing you to run the ads? And the sad reality is, for most entrepreneurs out there today, number one, they couldn't tell you if they have a positive ROI on their marketing dollars. And number two, they're too busy measuring the wrong metrics, right? All of those things matter. All of, impressions, reach, frequency, like, shares, all of those things matter. But they should take second stage. They should not be front and center. Front and center should be the actual ROI, the actual dollars going back into your pocket or into your bank account as a result of the campaigns you've run.
Very rightly said. I think so. The combination that you have told works for most of the client who are going for the social media. So they should be focusing on the ROI, and at the back end they can see that what is the platform or what is the communication media which is giving them ROI. So they can connect with that. Let's say for me, I'm running a campaign on Facebook and Instagram, and somewhere if I see that okay, Instagram is giving better ROI, so I can plan my strategies for Instagram accordingly. And where, let's say, if Facebook is not giving me better results or better sales or the ROI, somewhere I can shift my budget to my Instagram or to some other, I can experiment with some other platform. So I think so that you have rightly said.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So now we have understood about selecting the platform. Now, what is the ideal number of posts that we should be going for each platform?
You may not like my answer, but my answer is this: that's going to depend specifically on your market. So some markets, some audiences consume content at a much higher frequency or more often than other audiences. So based on your audience and your market and the way that they engage, the way that they consume the media, right, through those platforms, whichever platforms they're on, that should dictate, that should determine how often you're posting. That should also determine when you're posting, right? So, if you're targeting moms with young children, that's your target audience, it may not be best to post early in the morning or in the afternoon. So in other words, when they're busy getting the kids ready for school and helping them get out the door and all these things, it may not be a good time to post. Again, it's important to understand your audience, because when you thoroughly understand that audience, it will help you understand when and how often you should be posting. Now, one other side kind of track here, one other side kind of comment is this, that all too often entrepreneurs and marketers demand too much from one of their posts or from one of their campaigns. We are too demanding on those single things. And instead, we have to step back and we have to understand, how does this one post play into my strategy? So how can I be more strategic with what I'm posting? How can I be more strategic? In other words, how does this post build on the post that was published yesterday or the day before? And how will tomorrow's build on to today's? And so it's important that we approach our marketing, that we approach our posting and the schedule of our posting, not as some random happenstance, like we just throw things on the wall and hope that they work, but instead through this lens of, where am I trying to bring this audience? In other words, I'm taking them from strangers and I'm trying to convert them into customers. What is that process? What is that journey? What does that story need to be to make that happen?
So that will definitely help us to understand that what is the number of posts that one can go for their platform. Now, once we have understood the platform, once we have understood the number of posts that one should be going, the next part that comes is the content. So, we have listened more about, or we have heard more about the user generated content. Do you think user generated content plays any important role in this social media strategy?
Yeah, I do. I think absolutely. When you're engaged with your audience, when you thoroughly understand your market and you're communicating with them based on your understanding of them, what happens then is you begin engaging in dialogue. And what we found to be true is this, that most people do not actually do social media marketing. What most people out there, most of the people listening to this, what they're actually doing is digital media marketing. And it's two completely different things. So the difference is this: digital media is when you show up on a platform, you broadcast your message, you post your message, and you're showing up with a megaphone. In other words, you're treating this platform as a megaphone, a place to get your message out to the world. The flip side of that is social media marketing. And you think about the first word of that. Social means interaction. It means dialogue. It means back and forth. It's about connection. And so when we begin shifting our thinking from just showing up and throwing up, showing up and broadcasting our message out to the world, and instead we flip that around, we flip the script in our head and say, this is about a conversation. This is not about a megaphone. This is actually about a telephone. It's about two-way communication. It's about two-way dialogue. When we embrace that mentality, then everything changes for us, right? We immediately remove ourselves from our competitors, because I can tell you, we work in dozens of industries. And in all of the industries that we're in, it is exceptionally rare to find anybody out there, any of our clients' competitors, who are actually engaging in social media marketing. In other words, they're showing up on the platforms, they're engaging in dialogue, they're showing up on their followers' personal pages, they're engaging in dialogue on their personal pages. They're making it about a community, they're making it about this interaction. It completely transforms your marketing, and it takes you from digital marketing, which is what everyone's doing. It's a crowded place, right? Everyone's showing up on Facebook. They're posting all these posts. No one interacts with their posts. No one engages with their posts. And then they're frustrated, wondering why it's not working for them. When you flip that switch, when you move over to social media, when you begin thinking about this is not about me showing up and putting my message out to the world. Instead, this is about me connecting with, it's about me engaging with my audience, my prospective clients, my current customers, and engaging in dialogue with them. Everything will change for you. Everything will change for your marketing.
Very rightly said. So everyone is doing social media marketing, but somewhere they are missing the word social. A social is a word which involves interaction of two. And that, I think so, you have highlighted out very beautifully.
Yeah, thank you. I think that it's a big mental shift for most people, because what happens is we look around at our competitors, right? And we see them doing these things. We see them posting, we see them using video, or we see them using cool creative photos, right, on Instagram or wherever it may be, or TikTok. They've got the coolest videos on TikTok, whatever it is. And a mistake that we can make if we're not careful is we will confuse their actions that they're taking with the actual assets that they're building. So think about that for a second. So when we look at the landscape, when we look at our competitors, we may see that they post 10 times a day, or 10 times a week, or 10 times a month, whatever the number is. And we think, oh, well, they seem to be doing well. So we copy those actions. But instead, what we're not paying attention to is the actual asset. What is the asset that they're actually building? What is going on behind the scenes? In other words, what is a layer behind, a layer deeper than the surface level actions that we see them taking? And so when we understand and when we begin thinking through the actual creation of assets, the building of assets, it limits the number of possibilities. So you think about in business, an asset would be a loyal following on social media. That could be an asset for you. Now, the flip side of that is if you're making, whatever the number is, 5 posts a day on your social media following, and let's just say you have 5,000 followers, but they don't interact, they don't engage, that's not really an asset. As a matter of fact, that's more of a liability to you because it's this thing that's there and it's requiring this effort from you, making these posts, putting out this content, but there's no asset, right? Because they're not engaged, they're not loyal, they're not looking forward to what you're sharing, they're not purchasing from you. And so for us as entrepreneurs, as marketers, we have to peel back a layer. We have to go a layer deeper than the actions, and we have to try to understand how are they taking these actions and turning them into an asset? How are they leveraging these actions into an asset for their company, for their business, or whatever it may be?
Very truly. Coming to the engagement part, like for most of the clients, they generally have a problem that whenever they go on posting the social platforms, they might be getting a few likes on their post. But then the major challenge is getting a good and a trustful comment and share. So, what are the best ways, the best content strategy that you can guide us on to have a better engagement? When we say engagement, it will be mostly into the comment and share because that is very hard to get in this time where most of the brands are on the social media.
Sure, yeah, and that's a challenging question to answer, but here are 2 different thoughts on that. So number 1 would be this: when you shift your mindset from I'm going to show up and throw up, right? I'm going to show up on the social media platform, I'm going to throw up my message, and I'm going to hope it resonates with people, to I'm going to show up in a meaningful way for my audience. Now, what that means is, that means we have to thoroughly, like we talked about earlier, understand our audience. We have to thoroughly understand our market. We have to speak to them specifically. We have to speak into their lives. We have to speak into their pain. We have to speak into their frustration, to their desires, to their goals, to the things that they hope to achieve. And when we shift our messaging from here's what I'm about, here's what I have to offer, here's how great we are, here's what we're up to, here's why you should care, to we see you, we hear you, I understand your pain, I understand your frustration, I understand what you're going after, right? It completely shifts the way we approach that social media, and it completely shifts the way that they internalize it, the way that our audience, the people out there, engage with that content. And here's a big warning to everyone listening. If you have been participating in digital media marketing, in other words, you've been showing up and just putting stuff out there, hoping it resonates, and it's not, right? You're not getting any engagement, you're not getting the likes, you're not getting the shares, you're not getting the comments. When you begin shifting over to more social media, in other words, speaking into their lives, don't expect to be an overnight change in their behavior, right? You've now trained your audience for however long that you're using the platform just to show up and throw up. And so when you change, it's going to take some time to build trust, to build authenticity, to show them that you genuinely are there and you care about them. So, when you speak to those things, when you speak to their needs, to their desires, to their goals, to their aspirations, when you feature them, when you showcase them, when you make them the heroes, not you, not your company, not what you're doing, but when you make them the hero, it drastically transforms the way that your marketing works.
Thank you for giving this very insightful information. And I think so this will help us to understand and help us to plan our social media activities so that we can have a better engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this formula that we use for all of our clients. So, I imagine for someone listening to this, they're like, okay, all of those things are great. I agree or I disagree with what Wayne has shared. but what's the practical? Like, how do I actually take this back? What do I actually do today to make a difference?
So there's one more question, and that's even in my mind also. And like when we work upon all the social media platforms, and especially if we go with the Facebook algorithm, and even with go with Instagram and these are platforms. So what they are doing is they are somewhere limiting the organic post, and they are encouraging the businesses to invest more on their paid campaigns. Whether it might be that if you want to get reach to a broader audience, you have to go with the paid likes. If you have to reach to a good amount of people who might be interested in your product, then you have to go with the boost. So do you think paid likes and boost are important for businesses to reach new audience and grow their follower base, or that can be achieved only if they focus on the organic part?
Yeah, it's a great question. And here's what I would say in response to that. In order to grow, as you stated, Facebook, Instagram, all of these platforms are switching, like you said, from an organic to a paid model, right? Facebook, at the time we're recording this, Facebook just in the past few days came out with their quarterly earnings, and it blew past all the records. I think it was $26 billion in revenue in one single quarter. So that's a lot of people spending a lot of money trying to get their message out there, to broadcast their message out to the world on Facebook and Instagram. But this is what's true. In order to reach new audiences, in order to grow, one of two things is going to be required. It's either going to be money or it's going to be time. One of those two things is going to be required. So if you have more time than you have money, invest that time in creating content that is shareable. Invest that time in creating content that is so remarkable, so unique, and speaks so directly to your audience that you know they couldn't help but share it, right? Now, that's not just a post. That's not just throwing up a picture and putting a cute little quote on it. That is time. That's investing in understanding your audience, investing in understanding what's taking place in their lives right now so that you can truly create that remarkable content. Now, if you invest the time in doing that, it will pay off. It will produce positive ROI for you. However, it is a much longer process, and it's going to be a slower process just because you're paying for that with your time. The flip side of that is you can take a mediocre post, you can boost it, you can run, Facebook ads to it, traffic campaigns, whatever objective you choose, and it will get results much quicker simply because you're paying Facebook to take an average ad and put it in front of more people. Whereas on the flip side of that, if you're using your time, you have to invest all that time to create the remarkable content that will be shared. And so either way, there's an investment. The question is, which investment can you and will you make?
Definitely. So options is open for everyone. Now they have to choose whether they want to go with the organic if they have sufficient time, and if they are having a shortage of time, then they have the option of going with the paid option. Now we have come to the end of today's episode, and we have received a lot of insightful information about creating the social media strategy. What is the last piece of advice that you'd like to give to fellow digital marketers who want to improve their results for social media?
Yeah. So one of the things that I would like to end with is, as people are listening to this, we've covered a lot of territory, a lot of ground, and a lot of it's more strategic that we've talked about. In other words, it's kind of higher level things. And so what I'd like to do is leave people with some very tactile, some very specific things that you can do today to begin transforming the results that you get on social media. So what I'd like for everybody to do is just envision a circular, a round clock hanging up on the wall, right? So it's a clock that's got an hour hand, a minute hand, and a second hand. Now, at the top of that clock, in the 12 o'clock spot, is what we would call strangers. So strangers are anybody out in the world who you believe would be a good fit for your product, your service, or whatever it is that you provide. Okay, so those are strangers. They don't know about you. but you believe that particular audience would be a great fit. Over at the 3 o'clock spot on the clock is what we would call friends. So the difference between a stranger and a friend is this: a friend knows about you and they like you to some degree, right? You can have casual friends who don't know you that well, but they like you, you're acquaintances, you're friends with them, or you can have really close friends who like you a lot and who know you well. Now, so we think about the clock, 12 o'clock, we got strangers, 3 o'clock, we have friends. Down at 6 o'clock, this is where we have customers. So the difference between a friend and a customer is trust, and they have now given you money, right? So when they become a customer, there has been an exchange of value. If you're in a for-profit industry, they have taken out their wallet, they've given you some money in exchange for the value that your product or service is going to bring. So when we think about that portion of the clock, strangers at 12 o'clock, friends at 3 o'clock, and the customers at 6 o'clock, I want you to think about your marketing. And when you sit down to post on social media, I want you to think, when I make this post, is this post helping move people from strangers to friends? Or is this post helping move people from friends to customers? Because once you think about it, once you view it through that lens, it now shapes and it helps sculpt the messaging that you're going to write. So in other words, if we are going to try to move people who are strangers to friends, we need to focus on, number one, getting them to know about us. Number two, getting them to like us at some degree, to some level, they need to like us. So when I sit down and think about my posts, I'm going to ask myself, okay, if I'm moving people from strangers to friends, if that's the goal here, my posts, my content, my images, my video, whatever it may be, it needs to have those elements of getting them to know about my organization, my business, the product, the service, whatever it is that we do, and getting them to like what it is that we offer. Now, if my post then is going to move people, if I have a different post and my goal is to move people from friends into customers, I need to focus on building trust. I need to focus on showing them that my product, my service will deliver the value that we say it's going to deliver. And so I can sit down and craft my post then centered around building that trust, moving people from friends into customers. So that gives me a lens. And I no longer have to be so demanding on one post. I don't have to make a post and then sit down and hope and pray that it converts people into customers. Instead, I can say, okay, my goal with this post is simply this: to move people from strangers to friends. Okay, my next post, my goal with this particular post is to move people from friends to customers. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is where most people, that's the end of the equation. But over on the 9 o'clock spot on the clock are what we would call evangelists. And evangelists are people who are out there who love your product, love your service, love your company so much that they're willing to go out and tell their friends about you. And so when they go out and tell their friends, it bypasses the whole 12 o'clock spot on the clock, right? Because it goes straight across from 9 o'clock, straight across to their friends at 3 o'clock. And so to move people from customers into evangelists, we have to ensure that they love our product, they love our service, they love our company. And that means we have to exceed, our product, our service has to exceed their expectations. And so again, you can run social campaigns that help move them even from customers into evangelists for your organization. So again, we call that whole process the natural progression, and we use it to hold every single ad, every single campaign accountable, not for converting people into customers, but instead moving them to the next stage based on what we're trying to accomplish.
Definitely. And the way you have connected the clock with the complete strategy is something that it will be very easy for everyone to recall or to practice upon. So very insightful information you have given us today. With this, we have come to the end of today's episode. It was great learning some of the important social media tips that can help improve the performance and engagement. So thank you, Vinay, and looking forward to host you again.
Thank you so much for the time. I've enjoyed our conversation today.